Let's just see. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the lessons from ancient Eastern philosophy. A lot of what I learned was from the Gita and um, Heart of Buddhist teachings. These are my main things that I've learned from, and I just wanted to share with you guys. So my goal with this presentation is to provoke some new thought or perspective. I think we can get into our own bubble of like thought, and we see the same things on social media. We see that our friends think the same way, and hopefully I can share some new ideas that can maybe bring some new perspectives. But a lot of you already know a lot of these things, and I think just to go down on some concepts would be interesting. Discuss some key takeaways from the Gita. For me personally, I read the Gita last year. And since I've read that, I've learned a lot because I was in a point where I was in university, it was a new setting, new experience, and there's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. And I was wondering, like, what can I do to, still feel good while I was doing my actions? And I felt like the Gita was like the best way for me to understand that. And then to see the similarities between the Gita and Buddhist teachings, although they may be different in some perspectives, they do tend to have the same actions themselves. And I'll try to take some practical tips that we can take away and maybe apply into our own life. And yeah, these are just some things I've learned along the way. So the main resources that I've used, and basically all the ideas from this presentation are from these three main resources. Almost all of it's from the Gita translation from Nicholas Sutton. He did his PhD thesis in the Mahabharata and is the education director of Oxford for Hindu Studies. I tried reading the Gita, Bhagavad Gita by Swami Prabhupada, who like originally translated the Gita to English. But for someone that's never like really dived into this kind of content before, it's really hard for me to like step into that and like understand all the characters, and like there's so many little things that I just didn't understand. I feel like this translation maybe understand like context. It had commentaries, and there's three traditional commentaries of the Gita made by Shankaracharya, Ramanuja Acharya, and Madhvacharya. And Nicholas Sutton takes in all perspectives of the commentaries and kind of produces, oh, Shankaracharya says this, Madhvacharya says this, and just takes in the different perspectives. The second one is the Gita for Daily Living. It really dives deep into the concepts, because for me reading, I would read maybe like a chapter at a time, but there's so many concepts inside one chapter, and it's very hard to like dive deep into what they're really saying. And each episode is about 20 minutes. So on the drive to campus, I'll just listen to it and just try to get some new perspectives every single day. And then I've just recently been reading the Heart of Buddhist teachings. I noticed that a lot of the teachings that I've been learning were around Hinduism, and I really wanted to understand the Buddhist philosophies and like the core teachings of Buddha. And it's made by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Vietnamese Buddhist monk. And he really writes in a simplistic manner that's like really easy to understand. So I highly recommend these resources. So the Gita context, I think the context is really important before we dive deep into some content. The content, it takes place before a really big civil war between the Kauravas and Pandavas. And the Kauravas and the Pandavas are actually related. So Arjuna is on the side of the Pandavas, Duryodhana is on the side of the Kauravas, and they're cousins. But they're in a civil war and they're battling each other, and that's the Mahabharata. And the Bhagavad Gita, where it starts from, is the point before the war starts. And it's the discourse. Arjuna is an archer, and Krishna is his charioteer, and he wants to see the middle of the battle before he starts the war. And he sees his friends, he sees his relatives, and he sees his teachers, and he's although he's been training his whole life to be a warrior and to be an archer, if the time comes to fight evil, he no longer wants to fight after seeing these people. And Krishna has like a discourse and his explanations as to why to fight. And this quotation kind of sums it all. It's like Arjuna's understanding of the nature of his existence, his place in the cosmic order, and why he has to take part in the coming battle. And so now we get into the concept of dharma, which is really important. The Gita, it has like two different definitions. So like virtuous conduct, and it has like the social duties that are bound to like the social class. And although we don't live in a feudal kingdom anymore, I think we can still take some of these interpretations into the modern setting. And from this verse in chapter 2, it says, considering the nature of your personal dharma, you should not hesitate. For a Kshatriya, there's nothing superior to fighting in accordance with dharma. So Kshatriya are the warrior class, and for him, he's been training his whole life, and it is his dharma or his duty to fight evil if necessary. And although this might sound violent, I think the Gita was trying to explain from an perspective, like an extreme perspective where it's life and death. But we can take, if we don't take it literally and we take what it's really trying to say, it says like each person has their own inner nature, what they're drawn towards certain things. Some people are drawn towards art, some people are drawn towards science, music, social work, whatever it may be. But I think it's our duty into this world to fulfill our duty without desire of personal gain. A lot of the things that we do, we think we have to do something for a certain goal, for a certain result, but maybe we should try to do actions without the desire for personal gain, but just for the sake of doing that action, you enjoy doing that action themselves. And then that's when we get to the point of action in karma yoga. Karma is a really big part of Hinduism, Buddhism, and we always say that every action has a reaction in another sense. So if you do good actions come to you, bad actions come to you. But why do we do certain actions is like a question we may ask ourselves. If we study, we want to get good grades. If we work, we want to get money. It's mainly for the result, most of the times. And the focusing on the result is maybe causing anxiety or stress for that certain result. So say I'm pressured for a test coming up soon, all I can think about is, oh, am I going to do good on the exam? Am I going to do good on the exam? And it may cause that stress and anxiety. But what if we did the action for the sake of learning the action? We may be able to dive deeper and maybe learn more to do better in the exam, in a sense, right? And often it's opinions of others and the thought of others that maybe stop us from doing certain actions as well. So in this 2 verses, Krishna says to Arjuna, when a person gives up attachment for the fruits of action, so the result, is always satisfied and is not dependent on any other, even though he is engaged in action, he performs no action at all. And this is really hard for me to understand, like, how do you perform no action at all if you're performing actions? And the commentaries were saying that it's all mentally, it's all in your head, how you perceive things. And you're engaged in action, there is karma, but inside your head mentally, you won't feel the result of those actions. Even in the good times and the bad times, you'll still feel good and happy. And the same thing, that's what it says below, is if he is satisfied with whatever befalls him, transcends duality. So karma, the good and bad, is free of envy and is equal in success in nature. Even though he engages in action, he's not bound by it. And this is the idea of philosophy of akarma, breaking away from karma, and you're no longer bound by your action. So if you do a certain action, you're waiting for a certain result, then you're bound by karma. But if you do the actions simply for doing the actions, whatever happens, happens, and you won't even feel that, and it won't affect you. And I listened to a talk by Swami Sarvapriyananda, who is like part of the Vedanta Society. And he had an idea of like how to practice karma yoga. He asked someone like, what do you do daily to like, to have some devotion to God or to yourself, spirituality? The other person says, I give a fool to Hanuman every single day in the morning before I go to work. And he's like, oh, okay, that's something you do every day, right? He's like, yeah. All right, so what do you do for work? Oh, I'm an airport security and I check people before they go into the airlines. And he says, all right, so in order to practice karma yoga, what you can do every time you check someone, in your mind, you should give a fool to Hanuman. In that sense, you're doing the action for the sake of action and you're showing devotion to God if that's the way you want to do it, through bhakti. And then now since we're talking about action and what type of actions that we're doing, I think Buddhism has like a really good concept of samatha and stopping, because what's causing us to act certain ways? We have like this idea of that we have a habit energy that may be pushing us into doing many different actions without even thinking about it. And he says, Thich Nhat Hanh mentions that if we cannot stop, we cannot have insight. So there's a story that he mentions is about a man and a horse, and the horse is galloping quickly and appears that the man is going somewhere important. And the other man on the side of the road asks, like, where are you going? And the man on the horse says, I don't know, ask the horse. And we can relate this into our own lives. Like, we pick up our phone and swipe a little bit without even knowing why we check up our phone. We turn on the TV, scroll through the channels, and don't even know why we're watching TV. Like, why are we doing certain actions? And there's the practice of mindfulness is very important, and is an important concept of samatha. And that's the first step. The second step is calming. And calming, let's say we're angry, for instance, and we're trying to go through the stages of the calming. We have the first part, which is recognition. So if I'm angry, I know anger is within me. And number two is the acceptance. So if I'm angry, I accept that I'm angry. And number three is embracing. Buddhism talks about this really important concept, or this loving concept of you embrace your emotions just like a mother holds their newborn baby. So you embrace that emotion, really take it in. And number four, you look deeply. So when we're calmed, we can look deeply and see what caused this anger, in a sense. And then number five is, that's when we get insight. So after looking deeply, we can find things within our neural patterns, our psychology, to see that maybe I got angry because this is how I always get angry, and this has happened since I was a child because of this incident, and you can go down this pathway. Or you're upset because your friend was mean to you, but then you remembered his family member passed away and he's not feeling so good himself. And then so we can take these things and be more mindful as we're living through life. And then the third part of samatha is resting, which was mentioned before. So the resting part that Thich Nhat Hanh mentions is that he has a story of, like, if you throw a pebble into a river, it'll sink into the rock bed and let the water flow above it, and it'll just stay still. And he says that we must be like that pebble, and we must let just the thoughts flow and just rest. He says when animals in a forest get wounded, they find a place to lie and they rest for many days. So if we take some time to rest, we can heal ourselves spiritually. And I think it's a really important step that is also a part of purifying our mind. And I think it's an important concept of just like being comfortable with yourself, being comfortable being alone, and being comfortable being happy, and not really worrying about your current situation, being solid. And then now we move on to the description of God from the Gita. So the way I viewed God, this made me rethink the way I viewed God throughout my life. I've always noticed that there are many different gods, and I wonder why, like, oh, these certain gods represent certain things. How is that possible? I've always questioned that. I was skeptical, I was curious, and I think this really brought things into perspective. So the first quote is chapter 10, verse 20. It says, Krishna says, I am the Atman Gudasheka, situated in the hearts of all beings. I am the beginning of all living beings. I am their middle and their end as well. So this is where the idea, the philosophy of the Atman comes in. It says that our soul is interconnected with a supreme deity that cannot be seen or viewed by the human eye. Krishna then mentions after these few verses is that he is Vishnu, he is the Ganga river. For mantras, he is the Gayatri mantra. He is situated in everything. So then Arjuna really gets curious and asks, like, can I truly see what you are then if I cannot see through your human eye, through human eye? And he gives him divine vision to like end up actually seeing him. And he says, if 1,000 suns were to rise in the sky at the same time, each with the blazing effulgence, it may then resemble the wondrous radiance of that great being. So I noticed the words, the radiance, seems like some kind of energy and like a divine energy. And I thought, and this was mentioned before, is like scientifically says the first law of thermodynamics says like energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred from one form to another. So in a sense, we can kind of interpret it that if God is an energy, we can take in that energy and do good for ourselves as well, show energy to the world. And that's when we get to the concept of Indra's net, which is really interesting concept. And it's the idea that we have single nodes. So each little node right here, there's a node right here. Each node is supposed to represent an Atman, so a soul. And then it's to display the interconnectedness of the souls and the world. It says Indra is like the king or lord of the sky, and this like kind of what Indra views from the world. And it's like the interconnected as all beings, and it's also reflective in nature. So everything that happens around us can also, we reflect those same things within our life as well. And it also represents illusion and Maya, is like what we're seeing reality, because if everything is a reflection, what are we actually seeing? And it's the idea of the illusion and Maya itself. And Hinduism tends to focus on the nodes, so the Atman itself, while Buddhism tends to focus on the connections between the nodes and how can we be more show more compassion, empathy, and then how our karma can affect other people's karma as well. And this is the idea, like, how do we tap into our divinity? So if we have a soul that is connected with the supreme deity, then why is there still bad things happening into the world? Why do people still do bad deeds? Why do some people do good deeds? And it's the act, the Gita mentions the actions of purifying our mind. And the actions of purifying our mind, because we won't be able to tap into our divinities if our habit energies are the ones that are pulling us. We don't know where we're going, we don't know what we're doing. So if we do actions of purifying our minds, such as yoga, meditation, the things that we find or the knowledge that we get will be largely better, in a sense, more divine. And the actions that we take can be a lot better and more compassion. We can show more empathy to the people around us. So some actions to purify our mind are, as mentioned in the last presentation, where the Patanjali's Ashtanga Yogas, the yoga of 8 limbs. And we went into this already, so I won't go very deep into that, but these are some explanations of that as well. The Gita mainly mentions pranayama and dhyana, and then talks about samadhi. And then we also have Buddhist meditations. I'm just getting started with them. So like these are the two that I've just learned about, which is samatha, stopping, mindfulness that we talked about, and vipassana, which is looking differently. And then with this, we can, purify our actions, find better knowledge. If we purify our mind, we find better knowledge and then better actions into this world. So I just want to summarize. I took up a little bit of your time, but I think main ideas that I wanted to get out were to stop, meditate, and look deeply on like what you want to do, your purpose in your life, and really just think about those things. And then work on doing actions for the sake of doing actions, not the rewards of it, and fulfill your duties. Your social responsibilities. If you're a student, work hard in your studies. If you're a parent, you have responsibilities of taking care of your child and certain things, right? And these are really hard things to do simply for doing the actions, and it's a continuous process, so it's never ending. And do actions that purify your mind. And yeah, that's my presentation.
Good job. Thank you, Gaurab.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you so much, Gaurav.
Good job, Babu.
Great job, Gaurav.
Thank
you so much, Gaurav. Well done. Nice presentation. अब कसैको केही क्वेशन डिस्कसन गर्ने हो भने छोटो डिस्कसन गरौँ. मोस्टली यङ जेनेरेसनले नै अलि प्रेजेन्टेसन गर्नेहरूलाई नै सोध्दा हुन्छ. You guys can ask the person who spoke today, who did some presentation. So if you have any questions, you can ask now. Let's do that for next 10 minutes, then we can wrap up. Any question to anyone?
मधुजी नमस्कार
नमस्कार सुशीलजी हजुर
त्यो गौरव कता गए गौरवले त्यो बुद्धिज्मको रेफरेन्सको बुक भनेको थियो नि यहाँ पन्सुलले नाम के भन्नु
It's The Heart of Buddha's Teaching.
The Heart of Buddha's Teaching.
Yeah.
Who's the author?
Thich Nhat Hanh. I'll type it in the chat.
Just give me a second. Okay, I'll write it down. He had to go to worship. What was the title? Sorry.
The Heart of. Sorry, I'm just typing it right now. By Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yeah, that's Thich Nhat Hanh. Is that the Vietnamese?
Yeah, it's a Vietnamese name.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
अरु केही क्वेशन छ अथवा कसैलाई बोल्न मन लागिरहेछ अरु युथहरुलाई कसैलाई यङ जेनेरेसनलाई
हजुर नमस्कार
नमस्कार नमस्कार
दुईटा शब्द राख्नु पाउँछ होला भन्ने म अनुमति चाहन्छु
हजुर हस्
अनि सबै मित्रलाई प्रणाम दर्शन सम्पूर्ण तपाईं साथै गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरु महेश्वर सबै मित्रतालाई म त पहिलो पटकमा यो यस्तो मिटिङमा जोइन हुन पाउँदाखेरि धेरै खुसी लाग्यो र अरु अनेकता सौभाग्यहरूले जुन खालको रिप्रेजेन्टेसनहरु गरिराख्नु भएको छ उहाँहरुको लागि कुनै पनि सचेतता र यसलाई संलग्न राख्ने कुराहरु र कसरी अर्को क्वेशनहरु पाइन्छ भने म पनि नेक्स्ट अपर्च्युनिटीमा एउटा यस्तै समय राखेर एक्सप्लेन गर्न चाहन्छु र बनाउन सुनाउन र शेयर गर्न चाहन्छु भन्ने वचन राख्दछु
हस् थ्यांक यू अवश्य नै यसले यो अनलाइन यो जुमले चाहिँ हामीलाई निकै नजिक बनाएको छ जति टाढा भए पनि र यस्तो इभेन्टहरु गर्न एकदम सजिलो भइरहेछ अहिले आएर हामी डेफिनेटली एउटा प्रोग्राम आयोजना गरौँला भविष्यमा
Namaste. I just wanted to say it was so great hearing everybody's different experiences about their view of spirituality. I think I learned a lot just hearing from you guys. I joined a little bit later because of the time difference, but I really enjoyed the presentations and I thought they were really clear. I really enjoyed what you said, Gaurab, about the different aspects and also how we can apply Hinduism and Buddhism to our life practically. While it can seem like stories and different mythology, I think it has real relevance in our life, especially as youth, trying to develop ourselves and grow. So I just really enjoyed the program. So thank you so much to all the organizers.
Thank you. Anyone?
अदितिले चाहिँ उ 10 इयर्स ओल्ड हो उले एउटा क्वेशन यहाँ टाइप गरेको मैले देखे थिए
Yes, sorry. Question is
10 इयर्स को लागि चाहिँ कुन चाहिँ गीता चाहिँ सिम्प्लिफाइड अलि सजिलो र अनि रिफर गर्नुहुन्छ पढ्नलाई भनेर उले त्यहाँ टाइप गरेको थियो त्यहाँ
ए sorry मैले मिस गरे मेसेज हेरिन छु Gaurav, do you recommend anything?
Me personally, I'm not sure, but I know there's many translations out there that are for children that like can be simplified, but I'm not too sure exactly which ones. Sorry about that.
त्यो हरिजीलाई आइडिया छ भने हरिजीले कि हामी सर्च गरेर सेयर गरौँला आजकल त धेरै कुरा अनलाइनमै भेटिन्छन् अनि हामी डेफिनेटली त्यो सिम्प्लिफाइड भर्सन चाहिँ सर्च गरेर हरिजीलाई कुनै थाहा छ भने सेयर गर्नुहुन्छ कि
मलाई चाहिँ ट्याक्कै थाहा भएन इङ्ग्लिसको भर्सन चाहिँ मैले इङ्ग्लिस चाहिँ पढाएको छैन खास मैले चाहिँ नेपाली भर्सन नै अब भनौँ न नेपाली हिन्दी भर्सनहरू चाहिँ पढाएको छु त्यो भएर मलाई चाहिँ त्यति आइडिया भएन
ल थ्याङ्क यू सो मच प्रणव सबभन्दा सुरुमा तिमीले एकदमै राम्रो प्रेजेन्टेसन गर्यौ त्यसपछि सिद्धान्त शर्मा तिम्रो झन् राम्रो स्टोरी कस्तो राम्रोसँग प्रेजेन्टेसन गर्यौ अनि थ्याङ्क यू नितिका तिमीले पनि आफ्नो एकदम कुरा राम्रोसँग राख्यौ गुड जब त्यस्तै तेजस्वी र दीपिकाले झन् राम्रो दुईजना मिलेर राम्रो कन्भर्सेसन गरेर एकदमै राम्रो एकदम भेरी ग्रेट जब थ्याङ्क यू सो मच अब भ्यानकुभरमा पनि छन् एकैजना अनुहारहरू देख्यो होला नेक्स्ट टाइम फेरि प्रेजेन्टेसनमा फेरि भाग लिँदै गर्नु र त्यो साइडमा पनि कुनै त्यस्तो यस्तो टक प्रोग्राम भयो भने भ्यानकुभरलाई पनि सम्झिनु अनि हामी चाहिँ एकदम नजिकै छौँ यो अनलाइनले जुमले त तुरुन्तै जोड दिइहाल्छ अनि थ्याङ्क यू गौरव आचार्य फर योर रिसर्च एन्ड योर प्रेजेन्टेसन यो गौरवले सबै आफैले गरेको मसँग केही कुरै भएको छैन उसले प्रेजेन्टेसन भन्दा 1 घण्टा अगाडि मात्रै ल्याएर मलाई देखाएको थियो कि यो छ मेरो आज भनेर गुड जब भने मैले अनि यो सबै उनीहरूको स्टडी नै हो अब उनीहरूले हामीसँग त यहाँ कति मसँग हेर्नु छ यहाँ किताब टन्नै छ तर त्यो सबै नेपालीहरूमा छ सबै धार्मिक किताबहरू छ हेर्नुहोस् यहाँ होइन तर त्यो सबै नेपालीमा छ उनीहरूले बुझ्ने चाहिँ उनीहरू आफैले चाहिँ अनलाइन किनेर अर्डर गरेर आफैले स्टडी गरेको गौरवले अरू केही क्वेसन छ भने नेक्स्ट 2-3 मिनटमा कुरा गरौँ नभए चाहिँ ऱ्याप अप गर्नुपर्छ विवान डु यु हेभ एनी क्वेसन
मधुजी यो एउटा छ है मसँग यो गीता इङ्ग्लिसमा
हजुर हजुर
प्रभुपद स्वामी प्रभुपदको ट्रान्सलेसन हो क्या अरे
हजुर हो त्यो अघिको गौरवले रेफरेन्स राखेकोमा त्यो पनि थियो
हो
हजुर
यो 10 वर्षलाई अलिक गाह्रो होला अलिक सिम्प्लिफाइड नै खोज्नु
त्यो धेरै कम्प्लेक्स
एकदम भास्ट छ कम्प्लेक्स छ यो
कम्प्लेक्स छ त्यो चाहिँ
र प्रभुपादको चाहिँ वान अफ द बेस्ट गीता अब अलिकति बुझ्नेहरूले भनौँ न कलेज लेभलकोले भाइ बहिनीहरूले चाहिँ त्योलाई पढ्दाखेरि चाहिँ एकदम आधिकारिक ट्रान्सलेसन चाहिँ त्यो
हो
हजुर
10-12 क्लास गएपछि चाहिँ काम लाग्ला अहिले 10 वर्षलाई अलिक
हजुर
कन्सुललाई सुझेको
हजुर
2-4 पेज पढेको अरे
Yeah, I found I had to read the summary or that version first. Now I'm going to start reading that translation because now I understand the concepts a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, that's the way.
मधुजी यो जुन कार्यक्रम हजुरले आयोजना गर्नुभयो त्यसको लागि धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद हामीले अब यस्तै गरेर हाम्रो सेकेन्ड जेनेरेसनहरूलाई चाहिँ बिस्तारै इन्गेज गर्दै उहाँहरूको चाहिँ भावहरू बुझ्दै के चाहिँ कसरी आफ्नो कल्चर ट्रान्सफर गर्न सकिन्छ त्यो किसिमको कार्यक्रममा चाहिँ यसरी सहभागिता गराउँदै लान सक्यौँ भनेदेखि हाम्रो कल्चरल प्रिजर्भेसन र हाम्रो भनौँ न जेनेरेसन टु जेनेरेसन जाने एउटा जुन परम्परा हुन्छ त्यो चाहिँ अक्षुण्ण रहन्छ र यो असाध्यै राम्रो कार्यक्रम भयो त्यही राम्रो कार्यक्रम भएको हुनाले मैले पनि हाम्रो एडमिन्टनका भाइ बहिनीहरूलाई चाहिँ इन्करेज गराएँ कि ल केही तयारी गरेर प्रेजेन्टेसन गरौँ भन्ने साह्रै खुसी लाग्यो अब त्यस्तै कार्यक्रम हुँदै जाओस् शुभकामना
थ्याङ्क यू हरिजी एकदमै सपोर्टको लागि यहाँ हेर्नु न हामी अब 30-35 जना कति थियौँ त्यसमा चाहिँ मोस्टली भनौँ न अलमोस्ट हाफ चाहिँ त्यतिबाट हुनुहुन्छ होइन एकदमै खुसीको कुरा हो
होइन हामी नजिकै छौँ अब हामी एउटै कम्युनिटीको मान्छे हौँ अलिकति डिस्टेन्स मात्रै टाढा हो
त्यति हो
सबै कुरा उस्तै छ र हिन्दू बुद्धिस्ट भाइ बहिनीहरूले पनि राम्रोसँग गरे हाम्रो बेसिक जिस्ट चाहिँ दुवै उसको एउटै नै छ उस्तै किसिमको छ होइन त्यो हाम्रो एकदम राम्रो को एक्जिस्टेन्स छ नेपालमा पनि र त्यही किसिमको परम्परा चाहिँ हजुरहरूले त्यहाँ मन्दिरमा पनि चाहिँ चलाउनु भएको छ साह्रै खुसी लागेको छ एकदमै रमाइलो लागेको छ धन्यवाद
Thank you, Madhuji. I'm driving, right? That's why I'm not able to turn on my video. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone, all presenters. Gaurav has done great research, keep it up. Really impressive. And every presenter, Siddhanta, Pranav, Tejasvi, Deepika, and I forgot the name of the other young friend from Vancouver.
Nitika.
Yes, Nikita. Oh, so it's really impressive. And my request to the organizers, if we'll have chance to organize such events, maybe in an interval of maybe 4 months or 6 months, so that will keep going, and then we'll have our something to achieve, right? Thank you so very much, Hindu Buddhist Foundation Canada.
Thank you, Deepak ji, for nice word. Next time, रेशमाले पनि prepare गर्नुपर्छ है. Next time we will contact you. अब हामी यो दीपक जी को सजेसनलाई पनि ध्यानमा राखी अब 3-4 महिनामा नै फेरि अर्को प्रोग्रामको आयोजना गरौँला र अलि एडभान्समा नोटिस दिउँला 1-2 महिना अगाडि नै. त्यसले गर्दाखेरि प्रिपरेसनको पनि टाइम मिल्छ. अनि सबैजनाले अनि त्यसैगरी अब आज जसरी गरियो त्यसैगरी अरु पनि कुराहरू हाम्रा धार्मिक कुराहरू भगवानका फोटाहरू अथवा हाम्रा पूजा भाँडाहरू यो के हो आदि कुराहरू पनि डेमोन्स्ट्रेसन पनि गर्ने. अनि यसै बारेमा चाहिँ यसो अनि हामीले भनेर सुनाउनु भन्दा पनि उनीहरुकै तर्फबाट सुनाउँदाखेरि एक आपसमा उनीहरुले बुझ्छन् र चाहिँ हाम्रो जुन ट्रेडिसन हो यो मेन्टेन हुन्छ भन्ने उद्देश्य हो खास चाहिँ. यसलाई हामीले अलि कन्टिन्यू दिनुपर्छ. हामीले आशा गरेका थियौं अझ धेरै पार्टिसिपेन्ट, तर यो जुन आज भएको कुरालाई हामी चाहिँ धेरै भन्दा धेरै माझ चाहिँ हामी पुर्याउँछौं यो रेकर्डिङ सिस्टम भएको हुनाले. ल आजको अरु केही भन्नु छ भने राखौं, नभए प्रोग्रामलाई चाहिँ एन्ड गर्नु पर्ला. गंगाजी केही छ? हाम्रो गंगाजी
धन्यवाद अर्गनाइज गर्नु भएकोमा धेरै धन्यवाद. हाम्रो केटाकेटीहरु सबैले सिक्दै छन्. एकदमै एन्करेजिङ हो यो. अब केटाकेटीहरुलाई अलिअलि नलेज हुँदै आउँदैछ. उनीहरुले रिसर्च गरेर के भन्ने बुझ्दै छन्. त्यही भएकोले धेरै खुसी लागेको छ. अब यो चाहिँ कन्टिन्युटी दिनुपर्छ. टाइममा यसो प्रोग्रामहरु अर्गनाइज गरेर उनीहरुलाई इन्करेज गरेर राख्नुपर्छ. उनीहरुले पनि राम्रै बुझेको यसो सुन्दाखेरि धेरै राम्रो छ. प्रेजेन्टेसन एकदमै
मेबी नेक्स्ट टाइम गंगाजी यस्तै प्रोग्राममा चाहिँ यो आनापाना पनि 2 मिनेटको 3 मिनेटको
हजुर हुन्छ त्यसमा
गराउनु पर्ला. गंगाजी चाहिँ यो विपश्यना ध्यान 10औं पटक गर्नु भइरहेछ उहाँ एकदमै लिप्त. हाम्रो यहाँ जति पनि मेडिटेसन गराउने
नै हो
उहाँले नै गराउनुहुन्छ. ल सबैजनालाई ल थ्यांक यू सो मच for attending today's program and for your presentation. We really appreciate for your time. Thank you so much. Well done.
Can you leave?
Yes. See you next time. Bye.
Okay, bye.